Hey, what's up folks? Jam Book Reviews here with another quick book review. This video is actually a re-recording of an older review I did on the story of the Jamaican people by Sherlock and Bennett, now with visuals. Philip Sherlock was a notable Jamaican scholar and poet who was once the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. Hazel Bennett was the head of the Department of Library Studies, also at UWI. This book is a general history of Jamaica and its inhabitants. But Sherlock and Bennett don't begin the story chronologically. Instead, they start by grounding the story in the Afro-Jamaican perspective. The first 4 chapters are titled Honor the Ancestors, On Claiming Our Heritage, Africa, the Original Homeland, and From a Colonial to a World Perspective. And you can guess the content of these chapters based off those titles. But this framing is important because many Caribbean history books of the same period were written from a Eurocentric point of view, which often misrepresented or omitted the struggles and achievements of Africans and their descendants in the Caribbean. Sometimes they would go as far as saying Christopher Columbus discovered the region. I know this because I read some of them in school when I was younger. But in this book there is no omission, only contextualization and clarification. But any nation builder knows the importance of a people learning about themselves and forming a true cultural identity. It is not important what the oppressor thinks, it's what the people think of themselves that matters. Imagine for a second that you are an American citizen and all your history books are written by 18th century British historians, or that you are a Cuban and all your history books were written by Americans in the 1960s. The chances of a biased historiography increases greatly, and you would feel detached from a story that is your own. So Sherlock and Bennett take control of the narrative, giving Jamaican readers the impression that this is in fact their story being told. After this prologue, they continue the story not with Columbus but with the Taino, giving the reader insight into their daily lives and customs. Subsequent chapters cover the Spanish then British occupation of the island, documenting the genocide of the first Jamaicans, the slave trade, and discussing the lasting effects of the 4 combined cultures and their institutions on the island. Minority groups such as Chinese and Indian Jamaicans who were brought over as indentured laborers are also covered. The book goes on to analyze most major events in Jamaican history, like the Maroon Wars, Christmas Rebellion, Port Royal earthquake, Frome riots, and Independence Day. It also, and this is very important, puts Jamaica in the context of world history. Events like the Maroon Wars were not isolated. In the same period, revolts happened all over the Americas with groups like the Maroons of Palmares in Brazil, to the struggles of Gaspar Yanga in Mexico, to the Jucas in Suriname, and of course the most significant, the Haitian Revolution. These occurrences and the later emancipation movement were heavily influenced by the ideas developed in the French Revolution and the wider Enlightenment period. And later political activities in Europe by the likes of Wilberforce and Nib affected the happenings in Jamaica significantly, and the authors do their best to uncover these hidden linkages, putting Little Jamaica among other nations on the huge wave of world history. Later chapters highlight important historical figures such as Chief Taki and national heroes like Marcus Garvey, who contributed significantly to the country's development and sense of nationhood. Various institutions that are foundations of modern Jamaica, like the Micro Teachers College, are also discussed. Chronologically, the book ends a little after Jamaica gained independence in 1962. The final chapters include information on important achievements of the island and its people since then, kind of like a highlight reel. Some things I liked about this book are that it is written in the narrative form. Unlike a textbook, it weaves the history into a tight, compelling storyline. Another thing I liked is the diversity of sources and perspectives the author drew from, like autobiographies, planters' diaries, censuses, as well as novels, folk songs, and poems. So I really got a feel of the different eras. And the story structure also varies. Sometimes chapters are biographical, other times they are like essays. He switches it up. Another thing I liked is that the book delved into areas I did not expect, like, for example, what was the life like for an 18th century Jamaican market lady, or how certain plantations became the first communities. Very interesting historical tidbits here and there. The book also briefly touches on Jamaica's intellectual history, discussing the development of ideas from the likes of Dr. Robert Love to the right excellent Marcus Garvey and beyond. Some issues I had were that a lot of topics I would have liked to hear more about, like, Taki's era, they're not covered in depth. Most topics are given like a chapter or so. Another thing is the quality of the pictures. They are littered throughout the book, as you can see from the video, but they are all in black and white, mostly small, and the reproduction quality isn't that great. Another thing is that the book is a bit dated. It was published in 1998, and as I said, its analysis ends roughly about the 1970s, so I didn't get much about Jamaica in the late 80s and early 90s. But all in all, this is a great one-volume history of Jamaica that offers a kaleidoscopic yet concise and enjoyable story to the average reader. So it will be useful to like citizens or tourists or anyone who is interested in the history of this, great island nation. Thanks for listening. Until next time.